and welcome in. Welcome to Occult Perspectives. Taking my shoes off here. Time to kind of sit down and relax for the day. Kind of wait a minute as we wait for maybe some people to get in here in the chat. I've worked 5 days in a row, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's been monotonous, to say the least. Been getting some things done in between. I also filmed a video. I haven't posted it yet. I don't know if I'm gonna end up posting it. I need to review it a little bit more and make sure that it's something that I want to post, or maybe I'll make a new video about it sometime. It's not an entirely important subject, but my friend did make some cool visualization for the video. She made like a thumbnail image, and it's actually really cool. But the subject of that video, if I end up posting it, is about why I left the New Age hippie community, or the New Age hippie scene. And I kind of go into like a little bit of what my experiences are, or were, being a part of that community of people, and what led me to kind of leave and go in a different direction from where, my friends in that community of people decided to go themselves. All right, we don't have anybody in here yet, but I am just gonna go ahead and find a section of this book. This is the book that we're gonna go over in this video, The Middle Pillar, by Israel Regardie. And then it also has, it's edited and annotated with new material by Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabitha. And I was actually just talking to a friend that said he's actually met them before. He actually got to meet them once, so that's actually really cool. Chick and Sandra Tabitha Cicero. I see we have one person in the chat. Welcome in. Hope you are doing extremely well today. Tara, what's up? Glad to have you in here. I know I had read in this book somewhere, they actually talked about the two pillars and why the pillar of mercy should be on your left and the pillar of severity should be on your right. But I don't know where I read that at. I really should have marked it. Anyway, I'm probably going to find a different section to read. I'll definitely have to find that section. Okay. I was reading in my last, I believe the last video I did, talking about the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and just the science of pentagrams in general. I was reading from chapter 9 in this book, the pentagram. But I think for right now, I'm going to read from the chapter called Psychology and Magic, because it seems like there's some really interesting material in there that's pretty important to get into. I am going to read my thoughts on the beginning of this chapter, though, chapter 4, the middle pillar exercise. I just happened to open the book and read the beginning of this chapter, and thought that it was interesting what it had to say. So let's get into it. I see there are 3 people in the chat now too, so be sure to click that like button. Be sure to comment if you want to get engaged in the chat. Chapter 4, the middle pillar exercise. And I believe, yeah, this is from the original part of the book. It is my confirmed belief that several weeks at the very least of patient application to the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram should precede any effort to perform the middle pillar. For one thing, it will have trained the student in several little tricks of routine and magical technique, quite apart from the intrinsic virtues of the exercise, which is to purify and cleanse the entire sphere of personality to the end that the higher self may manifest through a purified body and mind. So almost a strange way of perceiving this or looking at it could be, is you're almost becoming possessed by your higher self, but you're forming the vessel for that to be able to take place, essentially. If the exercise has been labored at for 2 or 3 months, performing it 2 or 3 times during the course of each day, the student will approach the further stages of magic well prepared, quite able to cope with and accommodate the increased vitality and power which will pour through him. And that is something that happens when you start to do, ritualistic exercises. You're going to notice that you have influxes of energy come in. You're going to have increased, really just pent up energy, pent up power. And if you don't have that solid foundation, to where you're able to kind of control that energy a little bit, or at least handle it, or at least know how to channel it into something productive or something that, is helping you on your path, it can lead someone to go quite insane sometimes. And I'm not exempt from that myself. There have been times where I've just had such upwellings of vital energy that it's like, what do I do with all this energy? And I've definitely, there are many warnings on this path. Once you start to get into these exercises, these practices, you need to make sure that you stay on this path to some degree, because there's a lot of psychological influences that can take place. We're going to get into that in just a minute. What I think it's strange how Israel Regardie, though, he emphasizes that LBRP so much. And see, I used to do it like every day, like back in 2016, 2017, 2018, talking like that time frame right there. If not every single day, I would try to almost every day. I would go out to the woods and I would actually perform the LBRP. But what's strange about Israel Regardie, as well as Donald Michael Craig, is that they don't really teach the invoking ritual of the pentagram, the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. So there's always this emphasis on the LBRP, which is kind of strange to me because that's just, you're just banishing, banishing, banishing. And then where's all that energy going exactly? And Christopher Liam Thomas, if any of you have checked out his YouTube channel, he has a really interesting video on the LBRP, which gives different interpretations as to, it's not just simply a normal banishing ritual. And I've kind of emphasized that on my channel quite a bit. When truly understood, Crowley said, the LBRP is really the philosopher's gold or the philosopher's stone. It's a way to achieve that within the self. But otherwise, if it's just seen as you rejecting or pushing away negative energies, or a way to like bypass situations where you're really just in a chaotic life circumstance and you're trying to push reality away by saying, oh, I don't like that, I reject that. Like, you can do that for a while, you can try to do that, but it's gonna come back and it's gonna have a whiplash effect. And I've experienced that myself. So you don't really want to rely on that. What I find interesting here is that he's saying that if the exercise has been labored at for 2 or 3 months, performing it 2 or 3 times during the course of each day, that's a lot of times to perform the LBRP. That's a lot, like 3 or 4 times a day. I would almost question, what energy are you going to have left? Because what you're doing is you're getting rid of dark matter energy to create almost like a blank template. Is one of the effects of the LBRP. So you're clearing the space energetically to do whatever spiritual workings you're wanting to do. But the problem with it is if you've accumulated a bunch of energy, if you've built up a bunch of energy and then you're just banishing it, like you're just, in a way, you're almost just like releasing some of that energy. It's like leaking out. So to be doing the LBRP like 3 or 4 times a day, I think that's a lot excessive. And now that I've been through the process of, doing the LBRP, and then I kind of like fell off my path there for a little bit, and I wasn't consistent with it. And I was also doing the middle pillar and stuff as well. And what this can actually lead to is some like mental like instability and things like that. And we're actually going to get into that in just a minute. So yeah, the emphasis on like 3 or 4 banishings like a day, that's a lot. That's like way too much. I think if someone does like maybe like an invoking in the morning and a banishing at night, like that's plenty. Like I don't think you would really need to do much more than that in one day. What I prefer to do now at this point is if I have the time set aside during a day, I would prefer to do the LBRP first. That way I'm sending out the energies that need to go back to source. And then after that, I will invoke. I'll bring down the energies, the divine energies that need to come into the space. So I don't know if that's a better way of looking at it or working with it, but I don't know why there's so much secrecy and lack of information when it comes to the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. And Damien Eccles was like the first author who actually like brought some clarity to that subject. And as I've talked about before, the LBRP used to be like kind of the side, like a side note or just an afterthought to the original ritual, lesser ritual of the pentagram, which was an invoking, drawing the energy down, the invoking pentagram instead of the banishing. So at the end of the day, use these as tools, work with them how you will. I'm not gonna like sit here and tell you any dogma that you should or shouldn't do this. Like you're gonna suffer if you don't do it this way. I've never been that kind of teacher. So I think everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own story, their own background, their own direction that they're going in, and don't interfere with somebody else's will. Do what thou will, do what your true will is. It doesn't mean just do whatever you want to do, because if we did that, if I even just take myself for an example, if I were to just go off and do whatever I felt like in the moment, whatever felt physically gratifying, I would not be here today. I've had some incredible journeys. I've had some really interesting stories. I've had some dangerous experiences and encounters, but nothing to the point where it's like because my conscience always knew that I had to draw back in certain situations and say, look, I need to pull back and actually look at like what is the whole situation of what is going on here. So, continuing on in this section that we're reading, it will be realized how necessary analysis is as a preliminary routine to magic. The student should have arrived at a fair understanding of himself, his motives, and the mechanisms of her mind, and integrated herself more or less thoroughly so that no dissociation or serious neurosis exists within the psyche. And that's something that like trauma kind of brings on, because I've noticed I'm getting better and better and better as each day goes on. But I've dealt with a lot of dissociation. Like I'll find myself just staring off into space and almost just being totally dissociated with the reality that's around me because I'm too focused on the future or because I'm too focused on the past traumas or hurt emotions, things that I'm like still attached to in some ways. And we have to try our best to stay here in the present moment. Stay here. Keep your focus here. Don't worry about what others are thinking. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Be here. Be now. Be here now, because this is the only moment that exists, ultimately. All forces are working simultaneously to bring this moment into existence that we're at right now. For the presence of a powerful complex of associated ideas in the unconscious, or a marked dissociation splitting off one part of the psyche from the other, will have the effect of short-circuiting the flow of energy generated or released by the middle pillar. An explosion in the form of a complete nervous breakdown or even of the destruction of mental stability will be a likely result. So that's kind of what we were talking about. I was talking about before. And I've come close to those, I feel like, a couple times. There's been some instances where I've totally, just questioned everything and questioned my entire path and the nature of reality. And I think we all go through that to some degree, because we do need to face that chaos, every once in a while. Like, it's not just going to be a perfect road, a perfectly straight road all the time. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be things that come in and cause quote unquote harm or trauma. But it's happening to teach us. Our souls, our natures are eternal, and we're traveling through this physical existence, which is tough. It's not an easy place to be. But when we go back to source, when we go back to where it is that we came from, we can take that knowledge of the experiences, of the pain, of all of it, and take it with us so that when we go back into the soul space, when we go back to source, we can just laugh about it later. We're like, oh, that was fun, wasn't it? That was a weird dream. Chris, dude, what's up, man? Dude, when's the last time we talked? I feel like it's been over a year. Dude, this past year, 2024, has been the worst year of my life. Yet here I am. I'm still alive. I'm still doing this whole esoteric thing, man. So it's really good to hear from you, dude. I've been wondering about you. I tried to find you on Facebook, I think once or twice. My account got hacked and deleted or whatever, like I'd say like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And I just created a new Facebook like 4 months ago. I want to say it was like 4 months ago, something like that. I'm doing okay, man. Despite everything that's been going on, I don't live in Washington Courthouse anymore. Me and Casey split up. I'm living back home with Mom. I live in London. So, things have, I guess, moved to where they need to move to. Things have been rough, especially with little son and Mr. Raziel and all that stuff. But yeah, man. You've been out and seen any of the other Indiana folks? You've been out to Alan Carey's land? Or I've been wanting to get out there a lot the past couple of years, but I just haven't had the time to make it out there. It's a long trip. It's like a 3.5-hour drive one way for me. But I've actually kind of separated myself from the music scene. And I actually kind of created a whole video about that, about leaving the hippie new age spiritual community. And I haven't posted it yet because it's a little bit of a, it's a little bit too much. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit too honest in it, but it's like, it's just how I felt about the whole like music scene type thing. And I actually started to discuss that a little bit in the beginning of this live stream before anybody got on here. That I may post that video at some point. I don't know if I'm going to post it because it is my honest opinion, and maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, you know, with some of the people that are a part of that community. And I love my brothers and sisters who are a part of it, but I've dealt with too much pain and sorrow with people who are at least in the Ohio scene. I don't know about the Indiana scene. You guys, I love you guys. I actually prefer Alan Carey's Land to like most other venues and shows that I've been to, because it's a much more mature group of people. It's not just a bunch of kids like running around. Like it's a much more mature setting. Did you? Okay, yeah. I don't know, man. It just seems like to me, like at the end of the day, it's like everyone's kind of running away. Like at least maybe not in that scene, the Indiana scene, but here in Ohio, it just, and my, you know, the person that I was with in a relationship with, she's very into those shows. And it's not that it's a bad thing necessarily. It's just that wasn't the lifestyle for me. And, you know, I have a kid and stuff now, and I really changed directions of where I wanted to go in life. And I just had to make the change, man. I did. So if you got any other questions though, man, we're gonna have to catch up sometime. Yeah, of course, always drop down. I see there's 6 people in the live chat now, so feel free to drop down in the comment section. I'm just reading from The Middle Pillar by Israel Regardie a little bit, doing some discussion with this book, but you guys know me. I'll always answer the comments first, and whatever discussions we have going on in the comment section, that kind of takes precedence over the reading and stuff. Because I can do that anytime when I do my normal videos, you know. But Chris, I was just reading about The Middle Pillar. I'm going to rewind this just a little bit. Israel Regardie, he recommends performing the LBRP 2 or 3 times during the course of each day for like 2 or 3 months before you even attempt the middle pillar. I think that's an excessive amount of times to do an LBRP. And you know me, Chris, I stepped away from practicing any ritual there for a while. I had to, because I didn't have enough stability in my life to be doing that. And what I was doing by like trying to push and push and push and be like, oh, I need to do this ritual, I need to do this ritual, I really just had to take a step back from my practices. I learned a lot from Jeremiah at Universal Mastery YouTube channel. I learned a lot from him, which made me question, am I even doing the right practices? I started studying more left-hand path-oriented material, and I'm like, a lot of this actually seems very deep and very interesting. Not just interesting, but very crucial to know. So I was studying a lot of left-hand path stuff there for a while, but I'm going to continue reading. I'm going to go back a little bit in the reading, but it will be realized how necessary analysis is as a preliminary routine to magic. The student should have arrived at a fair understanding of himself, his motives, and the mechanism of his mind, and integrated himself more or less thoroughly so that no dissociation or serious neurosis exists within the psyche. And see, that's something I was just talking about that I've had problems with in the past, a couple of years, dealing with a lot of dissociation, where I almost will find myself like staring off into blank space. And my mind's not really there. I'm either like kind of stuck in the past or I'm stuck in the future. And I'm not really able to be like completely in the present moment, but I am getting better with that. I am getting better. For the presence of a powerful complex of associated ideas in the unconscious or a marked dissociation, splitting off one part of the psyche from the other will have the effect of short-circuiting the flow of energy generated or released by the middle pillar. So basically any dissociation is going to allow like a leak of energy. An explosion in the form of a complete nervous breakdown or even the destruction of mental stability will be a likely result. And you hear this when people, especially when people decide to like prematurely open up the higher chakras, especially that the third eye and the crown chakra. Like it's actually led people to the mental, the psych ward and stuff. So you have to be really grounded and really careful when you're doing any of these energetic practices, these magical practices. And that's something I've continued to try and emphasize on my channel over and over and over again, because I'm living proof of that. I'm a living example of somebody who's almost like self-destructed through even just trying to use magic. I've almost completely destroyed myself. Yes, mindfulness is hard and it requires daily practice. Indeed. Indeed. Many instances have been known of unprepared students contracting fatal physical illnesses through attempting work of this nature, though this is more true where Eastern exercises have been unwisely attempted. Yeah, some of the more Eastern practices, they're even more dangerous. And for me, I do have a physical condition. I had a hernia surgery like 5 years ago. Maybe 6 years ago. It's been a minute now, but I know that ever since I've had that operation done, my health has not quite been the same since then. So I don't even like to go to the doctor. Because I think a lot of the time, the things that they were starting to recommend for me, I didn't like it at all. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, I would rather fix this myself. Even if I have to suffer through some of the pain and the suffering that comes with it, I'm not going to get myself cut up again. I'm not going to go through surgeries. I'm not going to do that shit. I think the modern medicine industry, it's a total fuck. It's totally fucked. The whole medical system, I don't agree with it, like pretty much at all. I understand there's things that people need to, there's things that people do need to go to the doctor for. Like there's some things you're not going to be able to avoid going to the doctor or going to like the ER for. Of course, I'm not telling people to not go to the doctor, but I think we all know how, what are we doing? ? Heal yourself. Exactly. Welcome, Lindsay. Glad to have you in here. Fun boy, that ritual got rid of all my lifelong anxiety. Amazing. Which ritual? The middle pillar? Greetings, Lindsay. Hello to you as well. And thank you all for joining in. We have 7 people in the live chat now. That's awesome. Yeah, the middle pillar. Yep, I was actually just reading about how the middle pillar is one of those rituals that when you don't have that proper foundation going on, though, it can create problems long term. So what are we doing though? In this live chat, Lindsay, we are, I've just been reading like little bits and pieces of this book, The Middle Pillar by Israel Regardie. And then it has extra material by Chick and Sandra Cicero. What kind of problems? Let me rewind here. It will be realized how necessary analysis is as a preliminary routine to magic. The student should have arrived at a fair understanding of himself, his motives, and the mechanism of his mind, and integrated himself more or less thoroughly so that no disassociation or serious neurosis exists within the psyche. For the presence of a powerful complex of associated ideas in the unconscious, or a marked disassociation splitting off one part of the psyche from the other, will have the effect of short-circuiting the flow of energy generated or released by the middle pillar. An explosion in the form of a complete nervous breakdown, or even the destruction of mental stability, will be a likely result. Many instances have been known of unprepared students contracting fatal physical illnesses through attempting work of this nature, though this is more true where Eastern exercises have been unwisely attempted. Some of these unfortunates, when the disassociation was rendered complete, have succumbed to chronic melancholy, I guess, or taken their own lives. These warnings are not intended to be portentous or terrifying, but only to impress upon the student the solemnity of these undertakings. And really, this goes with any form of initiation, in my opinion, especially Qliphothic initiations or Qliphoth initiations. A journey of self-conquest. Let me go back. These warnings are not intended to be portentous or terrifying, but only to impress upon the student the solemnity of these undertakings, a journey of self-conquest than which nothing could compare in importance or seriousness. So it's really just about taking it like serious. So yeah, those kinds of problems, fun boy. And I was talking about how I've had some kind of weird health issues in the past decade. I had a hernia surgery. I haven't really been quite the same since then. I've used exercises like the LBRP and the middle pillar. For me, usually when I perform them, as long as I'm performing them, in the proper way, and I have, peace and foundation, in my everyday life, they've actually benefited me. They've helped. I almost feel like some of those practices have helped keep me alive. Because I've just had a very interesting life. I really have. I've pushed my body and my mind way beyond the limits of probably what I should have multiple times, which have almost led to me like self-destructing or self-destroying. So I'm at that point in my life where I'm really, I'm 33 now, so I'm kind of trying to get that foundation going again, get that solid foundation so that I can build upon that. So that I'm not making a lot of the same mistakes that I made last time that I started this type of work. Because I used to be, I was a musician that was playing all the time too. I was playing shows. I had my normal like full-time job. Like it was a lot at that point in time. I was also the worshipful master of my own lodge and stuff. So just a lot of things happening at once. Yeah, I figured the audiobook for a lot of these books, by the way, everyone, is pretty much free on YouTube. Like most older occult texts like this, like also the Secret Teachings of All Ages, it's going to be free. It's going to be free on, to access that stuff. Lindsay says, dig it. I'm currently reading the Zohar amongst many others. Awesome. Yeah, I'm always reading like multiple stuff. Lindsay, do you have your own YouTube channel? Do you post videos and stuff? If you do, I'll try to find your channel and subscribe to you. Is this like Gnosticism, like Manly P. Hall teachings and such? Yeah, right up that alley. So that's pretty much what we're getting into. Yeah, all that type of stuff. Gnosticism, that was weird. The screen went blank there for a second. Okay, I'm back. That was really weird. But yeah, this on my channel, I talk about all kinds of different subjects. I talk about Freemasonry, Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, the Tree of Death, archangels, demons. Yeah, you name it. We pretty much talk about it on here to some extent. I'm not like an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just like a well-studied guy, like who's read a lot of material. I've done a lot of these practices myself. So yeah, I've had my own unique journey. I've experienced some very interesting things, and Source told me that it was time to start sharing my information because my information was not meant to just, disappear with me when I leave this mortal realm, or if I'm coming back, or whatever's happening this time. Or next time, I guess I should say. Fun Boy said, I felt fine even after quitting for months or years and didn't have medical issues. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think it had a lot more to do, not so much with the exercises I was doing, like the rituals I was doing. That may have had an effect too, but there were a lot of other unwise like life choices I was making at the time. And I was also pushing my body to its extreme. I was burning the candle at both ends, literally from like the year 2017, I want to say, to 2019, like those 3 years, 2 or 3 years, I was exhausting all of my energy. I was totally in a masculine energy state of being where I'm just constantly outwards projecting. What can I do out there? And then it was time to come back to myself after that period of time, do some self-reflection. And I've always had more typically feminine type well, I do have much more feminine energy in my birth chart. My feminine energy is like a 9, so it just means I'm a lot more magnetic. I'm a lot more receptive. I'm much more of an observer than like going out and doing things. I like to stand back and watch. I like to observe, and I like to only speak to people or make that association with people where I'm like, ooh, there's a spark in them. I see something that's different. I see something that's unique in them. Let me pull them aside and we can exchange information. We can exchange knowledge. Because I like to learn from other people as well. But people have to be on that path of self-discovery for themselves first, you know? So, yes, LBRP exercise. LBRP is the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, if you don't already know that. 33, yep. That magical number. You should try using it to charge and create some talismans like in Modern Magic by Michael Craig. Yeah, there is a PDF of his book online. It's not the 3rd edition, which is the one I have. I think it's the 1st edition, which is free, but they're pretty much the same book. Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig. I highly recommend that book to anyone who's in this chat. Also, make sure we're getting the thumbs up in here as well. I saw there were like 13 people in here. So just make sure we're slamming that thumbs up. But yeah, you're right. I've used the middle pillar. I've really used more the LVX, which you do the middle pillar as well. But when you bring down the divine light, when you're drawing down the divine light, I've used it to charge items a couple different times. It's actually a really powerful way to do that. You could make a video of your success. My success? Like just in general? Like elaborate on that a little bit. Because to me, my I guess my perspective of success is, I guess there's not really anything I have to necessarily succeed at other than just trying to do my will. I'm not really a monetarily wealthy person. I consider myself to be more wealthy than most people, just because of the experiences I've had, first of all, in this world. I've had some of the most unique, I would say unique experiences that could possibly be had by someone, especially being a musician who played in a lot of different bands for about 12 years. That gave me a lot of unique life experiences. Then you throw ceremonial magic on top of that. You throw Freemasonry on top of that. I have lots of, just days of stories. I could tell stories for days. Lindsay says, yes, I do. Cool. I will go and check that out then. Let me go ahead and write down Lindsay O with a capital O. Or it could be a 0, I guess, but I'm going to assume it's an O. Zero is a pretty magical number. It's the circle. It's the infinity. It's the Ein. What's sometimes mistakenly understood as the no thing or the cold void. But really, it's infinite potentiality, yet unmanifested. It hasn't manifested yet. But all of creation comes from it, yet it's outside of creation. I've done a whole video on the Ein before. I've done quite a few videos where I talk about the Ein or the Ain. I don't know how it's pronounced. A-I-N in Kabbalah. But it's limitless potentiality. So from my viewpoint, just a small sliver of the Ein. If you were to take this, just imagine this giant like void, but really it's I've perceived it as almost this like ball of energy, and just to take one little sliver from that giant plasma type looking source of energy, just one little sliver is more than all the manifested existences yet. So there's just so much infinite potential there. It's potential is what it is. Infinite, limitless. Where is we rise together? I was like, what is going on there? Yes, I like that. Fun Boy says, damn, I have to go to work. I'm going to subscribe. Laters. Yeah, definitely subscribe. Have you been on here before, Fun Boy? I feel like your name, your username sounds familiar. I could have sworn you've been on here. Well, I had work 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. today, and I'm in Ohio. I don't know what region of the world you're in. I'm assuming you're probably from the States. But good luck at work. I hope it goes by really quick for you. We all know how that goes. Work is work. Usually sucks. Lindsay says, yes, because we are connecting. Darkness doesn't want it. Interesting. Lindsay says she's subscribing. Follow the universal breadcrumb trail. Oh, now we are balancing. Love it. I have more masculine. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. But yeah, yeah, people get the whole like masculine and feminine thing. They can get that kind of warped because I'm talking about masculine and feminine like archetypal energies. I'm not saying like I'm like feminine, if that makes sense. I am a little bit more feminine than your your typical like male, but and I find comfort in that. I think that that's a really cool feature of myself. But no, I'm definitely like when it comes to physicality and like my sex drive and things like that, I'm very, very masculine, but I have a lot of feminine type features in the way that my energy works. So if you have a lot of masculine energy, that means you just have a lot more like projective type energies. You're like more like outward type energies, whereas I'm like more. I'm Scorpio according to tropical zodiac, so I have a lot of Scorpio influence in my chart. So I'm always the one who's like, kind of like, I like to have my little cave. Like this is my room back here. So like, this is my cave, and I've always been somebody who like, there's Bella laying on my coat. Say hi, Bella. She's like, I'm gonna keep my eyes closed and meditate. She's like a little guru kitty. She's fun to have around. And angelic energies are more masculine. So angelic energies are more about building up. It's the positive polarity. So it's the plus sign. It's the building up and the projecting out. Whereas demonic or feminine energies are magnetic, pulling in, destructive. It's actually more destructive or breaking down type energies. In my truth, it means I have been reincarnated as male more than female. Very interesting. Very interesting. I feel like maybe I have been incarnated as female before, but I definitely would not want to be incarnated as a woman, I don't think. I like being a man, especially from the like more from like the sexual perspective of things. I just feel like that just feels natural to me. It has always felt natural to be attracted to women. It's like never been, it's never been a question for me. The comments lag so much on YouTube, boo. LOL. Yeah, I could see that being a thing. No, your success with a talisman. Okay. It worked. It worked. I haven't done it enough times to really have a clear answer for you. It's something I'm gonna have to do more often. But I think like with Raphael once, when I was working with Raphael's sigil, I definitely like charged that one, I think. And I do remember anytime I work with Raphael, it's a good day. Typically, it's a much more healing type day. But we want to learn how to internalize those energies within ourselves, so that we're not seeing these archangels or these forces so much as something out there. Even though when you do call them forth in the LBRP, they are standing before you technically, but really the energy should be within. It's all happening within. So angels, demons, they're all a part of us. We have both angelic and demonic energies within our system. All the gods and goddesses are just aspects of our own being. After 3 months, I constantly felt surrounded by the energy, and as I walked, it trailed behind me. It will go away if you quit for months, though. Interesting. Are you talking about, I don't know if you're on here anymore, Fun Boy. You said you had to go to work, but are you talking about after 3 months of like doing your middle pillar? I'm assuming that's what you mean, or like your different energetic practices. Lindsay says, you're adding all the amazing tidbits together. I love it. I'm glad you enjoy. And that's kind of what I like to do. That's kind of what I like to do on this channel is I like to bring all these different perspectives and all these different nuances to the table, like, and kind of fill in the gaps where other people have maybe not explained things all the way through, or my unique perspectives, my life perspectives that I've had, and maybe the things that I've studied or come across in all the various resources that I've read, you know, over the years. Hopefully I'll be able to have that tidbit of knowledge that you've been looking for, that hidden golden nugget, if you will. I see we have 8 people in the live chat. Make sure we are please getting the thumbs up going on. Lindsay O says, that's cool, Fun Boy. I don't know if he's still in here. I think he's gone. Oh, it's forever. Jesus says, how are you looking at for the end and not the beginning? LOL, it's all the same. The hero's journey. Yep. The beginning and the end are the same. It's all just one. It's all just one. Yes, I agree with that, sir. The energy is beautiful and always. I know what you mean about the male and female. Yep, I figured you probably did. Most people who come to this channel, they're going to understand what archetypal is versus like literal or merely mundane or physical, or on the Malkut level if we're talking the Tree of Life. Haven't been on here. My screen name comes from the movie The Crow. Interesting. Well, I'm glad he... I'm glad looks like you're still in here. So you must have not gone to work yet. Geneve, I'm going to butcher that name. Geneve, I'm just going to say that. Hopefully that works. I loved that movie when it came out. The Crow, I'm going to write down that. Sounds like it's a good movie to go and check out. Is it pretty esoteric? I'm guessing, probably if we're talking about it on here, because I pretty much have to watch a movie that's at least somewhat esoteric or symbolic. We have 10 people in here now. It's all right. Make sure we're getting the thumbs up in here. If you can, please. It helps promote the videos, promote the channel. Oh yeah, Terry, you told me you watched that once, didn't you? It's one of my comfort movies. I think maybe you did mention that. Heck yeah. Yeah, I'll have to get with you on that. We'll talk about that movie. Lindsay O says, yeah, I would love being a male more when talking about male energies. Sexual, yep. Yep. I just, I don't know. I feel sorry for a lot of women because I think there's just a lot of disgusting men out there, and the things that you have had to go through. I'm sorry. I didn't realize, I'm not going to lie, I didn't realize until I was a bit older in life I want to say really I didn't start picking up on it till I was about 24. I mean, all the way, it took that long for me in life. I guess just because I came from such a sheltered background to realize how much women are, you know, really, what's the word I'm looking for? They deal with some kind of sexual misconduct towards them. I'll word it in that way. Some kind of sexual trauma where they were touched inappropriately or were not treated correctly, and that's awful. And as I got older, I heard more and more stories from my sisters and the women that I love, and it just tears me up inside. And there's a warrior part of me that just wants to come out and just destroy those kinds of men that, are just really gross. And yeah, so I don't think being a woman would, for the most part, be that fun. Yeah, when it comes to the sexual aspect of things, it seems much more, for men, it's a much different experience, I think. It is interesting having these different bodies with these different, they have different functions. And all energies are us, it's one. Yep. And that's actually an uncomfortable thing to come to terms with sometimes. Because I'm not going to lie, there are people out there that I am so kind of disgusted by. And just, I'm like, why do they exist? Like, the way I've always kind of tried to rationalize it to the best of my abilities and ways. And one of the ways that I've described it to my friends and loved ones is I've said, well, they're just filling archetypal roles so that I don't have to. They are that part of creation so that I don't have to be that part of creation. Like, I can be me. They exist and they are them so that I can be me. They are the dirt. It takes the dirt and the muck and all those unsatisfying things, I guess we could say, to bring about the flower. It takes the dirt and the mud and all the yucky stuff of life to bring about that beautiful blooming. To see that, to have beauty in life, you have to have that contrast. And that's really like where the tree of death and like a lot of the darker aspects of occultism come into play. They're necessary. It's good to study that stuff so it can be understood as to why there's evil and all of these things. So if anyone wants to study the nature of evil and why it exists, there's a book called Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic by Thomas Carlson. And that book is probably the best book to describe the why evil, quote unquote, evil exists. So Lindsay says, adding all together is what we are called to do. All individuals on the same journey through different perspectives. That's true. There are two different paths from what I hear. One is where we unify back to source awareness, like parent consciousness, where we're all just walking each other more accurately. I saw that. It was a meme of like a group of elephants, and it was a group of elephants walking together like a family of elephants. And it said we are all just walking each other home. And I thought that was a beautiful picture. That was a beautiful idea and concept, because it's true. Now, there is the more difficult or the adversarial path, which is where you're working more with the tree of death. And you are actually supposed to reach the bottommost sphere of that tree, or top of the sphere, or top of the tree, depending on if you're looking at the tree of death upside down or upright. That final sphere is Thamael, and that's where it's all about self-deification. You're actually becoming a god of your own creation, in a sense, through self-deification and through the dark path, rather than reuniting to that source consciousness. But at the end of the day, it's all going to have to go back to source awareness no matter what. It all goes back. It all rolls back into one eventually at the end of the day. So you are right there when it comes to that. Now, the negative polarity or the negative path can only go up to, and if none of you, Lindsay, I think you would really like Make sure you check out a YouTube channel called Universal Mastery. He's got some really interesting perspectives, and I've learned a lot from his channel. He's got some really good teachings. I have a lot of respect for Jeremiah, and make sure you go and check him out too. But what he was saying in his videos is that the negative polarity really only exists up until like the 6th density, and then by the time you get to 7th density, there's no more room for the negative polarity. Yet it's not only it's needed, it's a requirement on all the lower densities. So densities 0 through 6 or 1 through 6, however you want to look at it, includes the negative polarity. But once you get to that 7th level, 7th density, it's all positive polarity from then on. So, but the negative forces do play a role in the grand scheme of things. Funboy says, in Israel Regardie's book about the art of true healing, he shows you how to turn yourself into a talisman. Very interesting. That's what we really all are at the end of the day. We're all channeling different spiritual intelligences, extraterrestrial influences, however you want to look at it, angelic, demonic. It's interacting with our DNA. It's changing our DNA. Our DNA is interacting with the environment. So there's so many different nuances and little things that add up to the grand equation, the spiritual equation of life. It's really quite interesting. 7 people in the chat. If any of you are new jumping in on the chat, make sure you are getting the thumbs up, please. After 3 months of using the middle pillar ritual is what I meant. I'm listening to you at work, so I'll be in and out. Okay, cool. I'm glad you are able to listen to me. Just make sure you don't get in trouble. That's super dope, Fun Boy. Is that the name? Art of True Healing? Tara says, yes, I bought it on Prime. Let's watch it. Heck yeah. Lindsay O says, we will heal it. We are healing it. That is true. This is all a healing process. As I was saying earlier in this video, the last year, this 2024, this has been the hardest year of my life by far. It's been a healing journey. It's been a healing year, but it's also been the hardest that I've ever experienced in my life up until this point. But now in November 6th, I turned 33. So this is going to be a change of energies. Things are shifting. Things are changing, and I think for the better. I think my ultimate prayer at the end of the day is for all the energies to go to where they need to go. I want everyone to experience the experiences that they're supposed to experience and that they're meant to experience. And that our highest selves, which can see and know and perceive all, has in store for us. Because it's ultimately us. We are God. We are God, but we're not in these physical vessels. We're only able to perceive so much of ourselves, if that makes sense. We can only see so much of the grand scheme of things from where we're at on the tree of life. We're in Malkuth, but yet we exist and are a part of the whole scheme of the whole schema, the whole entire thing as well. Tara says, yes, we are. We are indeed healing. Lindsay O says, I'm here to help with being comfortable with all. Those people are merely asleep. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. That is something I used to say to myself all the time was, forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. Father, Mother, Almighty Parent of the creation. That's something I like to, because obviously, God is not only masculine or only feminine. God includes both masculine and feminine, but it's also beyond that. It's beyond gender. It's so far beyond gender. Gender is something that we experience here in the physical, but now masculine and feminine archetypal energies exist in the highest spheres as well, but it's not the same. In the physical, it manifests as men and women having sex, or whatever combination of whatever it is that you prefer. So everyone has different sexual orientations, so do what works for you. you and Source know your soul better than anyone else does. And remember that Source or God is your own highest self. So God knows your heart. God knows your intentions. God knows where you're coming from. And God, yes, like you said, God created both evil and good. Lindsay, you were saying. Lindsay O, walking each other back to Source. I like it. And the other path is the more darker path. Love it. Both relevant. Exactly. Yep. I'm kind of in an in-between state where I really resonate with a lot of the darker teachings. I actually agree a lot more with some of the darker teachings than I do with some of the more quote-unquote right-hand path stuff. But I don't really like to consider myself right or left-hand path. I don't like to get caught up in that terminology of stuff. I'm more of a gray Jedi. I walk that middle path. But I do also walk a serpentine path. So sometimes I'm working more with the pillar of severity. Sometimes I'm working more with the pillar of mercy on the tree of life. So it's never a straightforward path, typically, for most people. There's going to be a going back and forth, and they call that the serpent's path, up the tree of life. And then sometimes we rise up the tree of life and we fall back down. I've had my own, falls, my own, we hear about fallen angels. You're talking to a fallen angel right now. So a lot of us are fallen angels. So, and it's not a bad thing. In fact, angelic intelligences, for the most part, are going to be more almost what you would, not really artificial. I don't think that's the right word for it, but it's more of an automatic consciousness. Like they are already just so refined. Angels are so refined and already to that point of their spiritual evolution where they just perform the functions that they're meant to perform. And that's that. Now, demons or fallen angels are like, it's like they are angels that like awoke or ate the quote unquote fruit of knowledge. And they may have had a fall at some point because they weren't ready to just be dissolved back into Source. Like, oh, I'm going to merge back with everything again. Like, no, no, like I'm my own fucking God. I'm my own creation. I'm going to create this Luciferian experiment over here. I'm going to create this separation so that God can learn more about itself through the separation for the sake of unity. It's a tragic but beautiful concept. It's beautiful, but it's also tragic. Lindsay O says, I'm going to empower / manifest / create both for I am all. Beautiful. I am not sure if I'm going to pronounce your username right. Iadarius? Is that how you say that? What's up? How are you? Glad to have you in here. Glad to have you here. Yeah, there's almost no negative in my existence. I have it when growth is, quote, needed, otherwise negative on the negative side. I hear it. Yeah, for me, yeah, I try not to get caught up in drama. A lot of people are just stuck in polarity dramas. Like, they really get so caught up in things that at the end of the day don't even really like matter that much. You know what I mean? So yeah, just unneeded negativity is one thing. But if it's negative energies that are coming in to fix a situation or to bring catalysts so that you kind of wake up and you're like, oh shit, like I gotta fix that. Like that's when the chaos type energies or the quote unquote negative energies are gonna be a little bit more important. Where is your like button? I don't see a thumbs up. So what I have to do on my phone is there should be a little logo in like the top right corner where it's 3 dots. And I usually have to click on those 3 dots and then hit the like button. I don't know if it's the same on your phone, Funboy, or not. But what you know about the unseen magic, Iadarius says. Well, I mean, are we just talking about magic as in like what magic is generally? Because the definition of magic is really anything that causes reality to like merge in conformity with what your true will is. So technically, by a magical definition, you could literally have a desire or the will to go make a peanut butter sandwich. You go and make your peanut butter sandwich, you've accomplished your will. So technically, even that is magic. But Donald Michael Craig adds to the end of that definition, making changes in reality in accordance with your will by means not currently understood by Western science. So really, occultists are the scientists of the future, because science doesn't really have the machines. Well, mainstream science probably doesn't, but I'm sure there's underground projects and stuff that are going on that definitely have, where they definitely have machines that can, read all of that sort of stuff, that can calculate or measure spiritual things, if that makes sense. Things become quantifiable at some point, but for the most part, we don't really understand exactly how these operations work. We just know that if we put an intention out into the universe, whether that be through meditation, whether that be through an actual ritual, and then allow that thought to go, allow it to go to source, and then come back and manifest in the physical plane as it will, that's magic. So really the occult forces, or the unseen forces behind reality, that's really understanding those forces and how to work with them and how to use them to mold reality in some way or fashion. That is what magic really is. Thank you for the thumbs up, the thumbs ups that we have in here, everybody. I see that we have 8 now. Awesome. Funboy says, yes, the art of true healing uses daily middle pillar ritual to make yourself attract or repel, attract, or I'm not sure what that word's supposed to say. Attract what you desire. Haven't tried it though. Interesting. Maybe that's something I can try to find in this book if I'm able to look in the index. You said it's in the middle pillar book? Iadarius says, unseen the gift, even the blood magic is good. Blood magic is very powerful. Be very careful with that, because when you use blood in a ritualistic way or form, especially when in conjunction with the spirit, you're making a very strong contract with that intelligence or that archetype of energy. And you better be ready to commit to whatever it is that you're doing or you're making a pact about when you're doing blood magic. So that's, and the blood magic can be transferred through the generations too. So remember that trauma and energetic influences get transferred through our bloodlines and stuff. So you got to be really careful when you're making deals or pacts or any kind of covenant with like a spirit or an archetype of energy. Lindsay says, thanks, Funboy. Funboy says, okay, I found a way to like the video. Sweet. Tara says the thumbs up is at the top. Lindsay O says, okay, much love to all. See you again soon. I resonate with your truth. Pretty good so far. I dig finding like minds. Tribe vibes. Yes. Yes. If you are leaving the chat, then I wish you an awesome day, Lindsay. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. I love when people engage and they, leave comments and get involved in the conversation. That makes these much more fun than just me like sitting here rambling or reading to a camera. Yes, God knows. Iadarius says, thumbs up. Lindsay says, thank you. Funboy says, the magist Curtis Joseph described crossing the abyss of the Qliphoth sound damn near impossible. Oh, dude, Curtis Joseph is awesome. Curtis Joseph is awesome. I love his channel. I've been in some of his live. Maybe that's where I've seen you. Maybe that's where I've seen you hanging out at, is because he hasn't done any live streams in a while, but I used to tune into Curtis's live streams and comment every now and again and get involved in the chat. And he's the real deal. In my opinion, he's the real deal. Him and Jeremiah both. Jeremiah over at Universal Mastery. Both those guys are great. A lot of respect for both of those brothers. I consider them very close brothers, even though I've never met them, in person. And Curtis is a really nice guy. He actually he emailed me. I asked him, if I was able to buy a copy of his the Black Magic of Ahriman, or Ahriman, however the correct pronunciation of that is. And he just gave it to me for free. He emailed it to me for free. He's an awesome dude. Yeah, crossing the abyss of the Qliphoth is like if you know of a video where he describes that process, I would be interested to watch that one. Yeah, that's got to be the hardest process that could ever really be, I feel like, because I don't think that very many people have actually truly crossed the abyss. Like, I think that many people have had what I would call like microcosmic crossings, like where in their life, they've had abyssal type moments where they've had to literally they either give up and get destroyed in the process, or they can rise above and can make it through that tough part of their life. Maybe a loved one dies, maybe there's a breakup and their whole life gets shattered and then they have to rebuild. I consider those like abyss type, crossing the abyss type moments in our lives. But what does it mean to actually cross the tree of life abyss? Like, would you even be here anymore as a physical being? That's like, I don't know. Same with the Qliphothic abyss crossing. So I don't know. It's really hard to know at the end of the day for sure on a lot of this type of stuff. Even blood ritual is real and most powerful, Iadarius says. Yes, it's definitely very real and it's definitely very powerful. Funboy says, no, it's in the art of true healing. PDF might be free online. Okay, thank you. The real words from God didn't create the Bible. Yeah, the Bible that we actually have today, the King James version being the most common version, I think. Wasn't it the Council of Nicaea where it was like Constantine and it was the Pope and like a bunch of Catholic people, and they decided which books they wanted to keep and they decided which books they wanted to get rid of or ban, essentially. So yeah, the Bible it's a reinterpretation of older knowledge. Like, there's always been ancient texts which describe like a flood and a lot of those like bigger type events. There's always like a deluge of some kind. It started with the ancient Sumerian, the cuneiform tablets. And I'm sure there were writings or teachings that came even before that, and like Atlantis. So Atlantis would have been before Sumeria, and before Sumeria, you have Lumeria, right? Lumeria. Yeah, I get Lumeria and Agartha mixed up. Agartha is the inner earth civilization, the hollow earth. Iadarius says, but the real Bible from him is buried underground. I'm sure there's still many texts that have not been found, because they found the Dead Sea Scroll texts like way later. That wasn't until what, like the 1940s or something, that they came across those texts. So they're still pretty like recent. They're still pretty modern texts as far as being published, or brought to the public awareness. So they weren't discovered, they were rediscovered. Again, that's how all this type of stuff works. It's a rediscovery. It's not an original discovery, typically. That's that old Hermetic axiom, there's nothing new under the sun, if you've ever heard of that before. So, alrighty. Gonna go ahead and skip to another section of this book. I think I'm gonna jump to chapter 6, Psychology and Magic, and then I'll jump around in that chapter. If none of you are familiar with the book, this is the book that I'm reading from, Middle Pillar by Israel Regardie. I like this quote that he puts here in the beginning. We have more knowledge than our ancestors, but not more understanding. And that is so, so true. We're actually drowning in quote unquote knowledge nowadays, or I wouldn't even call it knowledge, I would call it information. We live in an age of information overload. It's just so much info that there's just so much junk that really should be condensed down, really, and just compartmentalized so that there's not so much junk out there. It's just, there should really be a condensing of reality at some point along the road. And that's going to be what really leads to civilization reaching a higher point. It's going to take a lot of people to stop being so selfish in the dumb ways that they're selfish, just wanting to crave more and more and more and more physical things in reality. Like, no, it's all within, buddy. It's all within. And until people understand that, like, they're just going to be lost. They're just going to desire more and more and more and more. And it just becomes this like hunger that could never really be satisfied. Sorry for the yawning. I've been up since 4 a.m. What time is it now? 3:34. So yeah, I've been up almost 12 hours. All right. Okay, I'm gonna read this little section on the shadow because I read it the other day and I thought it was really interesting. Actually, let's read about unconsciousness first. So the unconscious is not simply the absence of consciousness. Probably the same idea with like the ein. The ein is not just simply void, it's pure potentiality, which is, it's really where everything begins. And there are actually certain Qliphothic texts. One is called the Sitra Akra. And I actually did a video or two on it. The videos are entitled The Darker Nature, or the Darker Sciences of the Dark Tree, or Understanding the Dark Tree. There's like 2 videos. I forget exactly what they're called, but I go into that book in detail in those videos. But getting ahead of myself. So the unconscious is that division of the mind containing elements of psychic makeup, such as memories or repressed desires that are not subject to conscious perception or control, but that often affect conscious thoughts and behavior. The personal unconscious is that unknown part of the individual human mind that is older than the conscious part of the mind. Let me read that again. The personal unconscious is that unknown part of the individual human mind that is older than the conscious part of the mind. So it's older than the conscious. It's always that feminine, it's always that darkness that comes first, and then the light bursts forth, right? This unconscious, which is equivalent to Freud's superego, is unique to the individual. And it contains suppressed, forgotten, or subliminally perceived contents originating from a person's life. So there must be a difference between you have the collective unconscious, and then you have a personal unconscious, it seems. So the unconscious that is unique to the individual contains suppressed, forgotten, or subliminally perceived contents originating from a person's life. Whereas the mind can be trained, the unconscious cannot. It cannot be trained. It is a creative and autonomous psychic entity that is beyond subjective control. That's a bit frightening, isn't it? Jung concluded that the collective unconscious does not include personal characteristics distinctive to one's individual ego, but rather the sum of what is inherited from the biologic and psychic structure common to the human race. They are those acts and mental patterns that are universally shared by all humanity. It's pretty frightening that we're all like synced up to that thing, though, I think. The primordial images of the collective unconscious are the result of thousands of years of human struggle and experience. Very interesting. I did know that, but to read it and to hear it again is a lot. Every great experience in life, every profound conflict, evokes the accumulated treasure of these images and brings about their inner constellation. But they become accessible to consciousness only when the individual possesses so much self-awareness and power of understanding that he also reflects on what he experiences instead of just living it blindly. In the later event, he actually lives the myth and the symbol without knowing it. So a person can go through their life, what he's saying, unconsciously, not even knowing that they're living it. Not even knowing that he's source. So many people don't realize that they are the source. They are the creator of their own story. They are the protagonist of, quote unquote, of their own story. And then there's a footnote for that. Let me see if that's worth reading. Nope, it's just telling you where it came from. The collected works of Young, number 6, 373. I'm assuming maybe that's the page, the 373, but anyway. See, I've always been a reflective person. I've always reflected and thought about why are things the way they are. I've never just been somebody who's been unquestioningly floating through life. You know, I've always questioned everything. Funboy says, Paul Sugar did daily middle pillar ritual. Who's Paul Sugar? I've never heard of that name. Did daily middle pillar ritual, including every Sephiroth, and eventually started having remote viewing and astral travel spontaneously. Dang. Wow. He did each Sephiroth like as he's doing the middle pillar, because actually that's something I should have said to you, Funboy, is when I do the middle pillar, I do what's actually an advanced version of the middle pillar, and I have a video where I describe it. I'm pretty sure the name of the video is the Advanced Kabbalistic Cross and Middle Pillar. But as I'm doing the middle pillar, like you start up here and it starts with A Hey Yay, right? Right in this light, you can oh, A Hey Yay, and then you vibrate Metatron. And then instead of going straight down to Yod He Vav He Elohim and vibrating here, I will take that energy and go down to the left brain hemisphere and vibrate Hokmah and Raziel, also the archangel with each Sephiroth and the Sephiroth. Then you move over here, Binah, Zophkael, and then I'll move down here and vibrate Yod He Vav He Elohim, vibrate the angel Enochian name, at least Donald Michael Craig says to vibrate, is Alexar Pe Komananu Tabituim. And then I would move to the left shoulder, and that's Hesed, vibrate Hesed, and also vibrate Zophkael, working my way all the way down from Kether, all the way down on and each Sephiroth and each archangel as I'm moving down, all the way down to Malkuth. So it's definitely an advanced middle pillar as opposed to the normal middle pillar. And I also have an advanced Kabbalistic cross, which I do as well, which is pretty nuanced and it's pretty interesting. I feel like there was something I wanted to say earlier, but I can't really, I'm not sure what it was. Oh well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read from the section that is the shadow. The shadow. If the repressed tendencies, the shadow as I call them, were obviously evil, there would be no problem whatever. But the shadow is merely somewhat inferior, primitive, unadapted, and awkward, not wholly bad. So that's the thing you learn at the end of the day, is even though something can be despicable, it can be so disgusting and it's not appropriate, it's technically there's no good and evil at the end of the day. But I don't know that I really even agree with that, because I think some things are just fundamentally not right. They're not. And the person would know that deep down within themselves. Like, are they actually being authentic? Are they actually listening to their higher spirit? And if not, doing horrendous acts, hurting other people, like it's not right. And, it's technically quote unquote evil, but at the end of the day, there's also it's mostly traumatized people who do those sorts of things. So it's a cause and effect. There's a cause and effect, like input output system that's always taking place within our reality. It's like physics, like for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So to say that it's like inherently evil at the end of the day can be really hard to like say, but so there's different viewpoints on all that sort of a thing. But the shadow is merely somewhat inferior, primitive, unadapted, and awkward, not wholly bad. It even contains childish or primitive qualities which would, in a way, vitalize and embellish human existence. So that's the thing. You don't want to like reject the shadow. You want to really integrate the shadow. You want to like get comfortable with the shadow and understand the shadow. That way it's not controlling or running you. You're the one running the show. And you can use the power of your shadow as well. Use the power of that darkness for your own liberation. Not to control others, but to control your own paradigm. Be the king, queen of your own kingdom. Here's the footnote to that. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong footnote. The shadow represents the sum of all personal and collective psychic elements which, due to their incompatibility with the selected conscious demeanor, are refused expression in life and consequently unite into a somewhat independent splinter personality, a type of alter ego whose unconscious inclinations run opposite those of the conscious. It is our, quote, dark brother, who is a hidden but undeniable part of our total psyche. So for me personally, that would be like a lot of sexual type energy, like, because Scorpios, I have four or five Scorpio influences in my astrological chart. We are very sexual by nature. There are a lot of the times where we're told that our impulses are wrong, by society. Like there's so many things we've been taught, like you don't do that, etc. These things get repressed within the system, and then it ends up causing weird mental type distortions and things within our own energetic field if they're not dealt with accordingly. So there's times where you need to channel that darkness. You need to channel those types of things and express them in a healthy way. You don't have to just go out and have sex. You can channel that sexual energy into activities that you love to do, into intellectual pursuits like reading, learning knowledge. Like there's many different ways to channel that type of energy. But have you ever noticed that the people who reject sex altogether, like especially like Catholic priests and stuff, they're like, oh, you can't indulge in any of that. Well, look what kind of freaks they turn into. Why is that? It's because they're repressing that shadow so much that it comes out in perverted ways. It manifests in perverted forms. So that's what happens when we repress the shadow completely and we don't work with it. We see it as an external enemy, and then that manifests in our lives as an external enemy. There's somebody out there that's the enemy. We're not dealing with it internally. The development of the shadow coincides with that of the ego. Aspects that the ego rejects are repressed and have little or no outlet in a person's conscious life. The shadow often behaves to counterbalance the conscious, which can be positive or negative. Let me read the footnote on that. This is the footnote that I was about to read before, but if a person's outer personality is self-centered and argumentative, his shadow might well exhibit positive altruistic traits that are repressed by the ego. Interesting. So if they're self-centered and argumentative all the time, The shadow exhibits the positive altruistic traits, the opposite of what they're projecting consciously. The fictional character Ebenezer Scrooge, I was like, what is that name? Ebenezer Scrooge would be a good example of a negative personality type who faced his shadow and was able to bring out its positive qualities. And then you have the opposite of that too, somebody who's outwardly altruistic, or outwardly nice. And I've been guilty of this myself, where I'm trying to be the good guy, I'm trying to help out. But then what's happening is I'm repressing darker aspects of myself, so then they get buried down, and then they come out and they explode later when I get triggered or something like that, you know? So I've been through that before. I've literally dealt with hell energies and Qliphothic energies, even though I'm not a Qliphothic initiate. I've never initiated through that system, but we all deal with tree of life energies, positive energies, and we all deal with negative energies. And sometimes they can either make us or break us. They can completely destroy us if we allow them to. And sometimes it's not always easy to stay on top. It's to stay on top and stay, positive. It can be really easy to fall back into that rut, where we feel like we're not getting anywhere. We get depressed. Like I've been there a lot recently. Even in just the past couple of days, I'll get really down on myself. And even Tara's in here, hopefully in the live chat somewhere. She's been a great help in helping to bring back some of that positivity, and just been a good person to talk to. So thank you for that, Tara. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to read some comments really quick. Paul Sugar does every Sephiroth, which is suggested in Craig's book. I didn't know that Donald Michael Craig suggested that. Paul Sugar has a website and many interviews on YouTube. Okay, let me write that name down. Maybe you can get him as a guest. That would be sweet. I've never had like a guest on my channel before, I don't think. So that would be really cool. I don't know how to do the double, have two people on a live stream, but I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to have a guest. I did guest on my buddy's YouTube channel. I think his channel is Sirius Star X Network or something like that. I forget exactly. Isaac Mason's the name of my buddy. But I was a guest on his YouTube channel once, and that was really, really fun. I actually need to reach back out to him and see how he's doing, because we've wanted to do a YouTube video together, me and him, but we're both such busy guys. He's a dad of two, I'm pretty sure. I have a child myself, so that makes life really busy. It makes it hard to set aside time sometimes, that extra time that you need to do these things. But yeah, I'd be up for having guests on here. That would be sweet. I'm just not sure how to technologically go about doing that. I think when you start your live streams, if I'm not mistaken, there's an option to invite other people into the chat, perhaps. I see we have 5 people in the live chat. If you have not clicked the like button yet, please hit that thumbs up, because that helps spread the word. Darius says yes. RNA, what's up, man? How are you? Glad to see you. Glad to see you in here. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your YouTube channel's name. RNA? RNA? It makes me think of arachnid. It has kind of that vibe to it almost. I love your content though, brother. Any of you who are watching this video, make sure you go and check out his channel, RNA. I think if you type that in, it should come up, right? Make sure you go and check his stuff out. He's got some really cool videos on there, some really interesting perspectives. And I was joking with a buddy of mine, actually, dude. His name's Joey. And I was showing him a video of you, and it's hilarious because I told him, I'm like, dude, this guy is literally, if me and you were to fusion, Like, I don't know if you watch Dragon Ball Z or not, but if me and my friend Joey were to combine into a person, it would be you. It's so funny. And then if like you and him were to combine into a person, like it would be me. Like we're like alternate like versions of ourselves. It's hilarious. But you are literally like a combination of me and him, like put together into one person. Tara says, I'm here. Always. You've helped me so much too. I'm glad. I'm glad that I've been able to help you with your understandings and learning. And I'm glad you're on this learning journey with me, because not many people decide to either walk this path or even like learn about this type of stuff. It can be a little cumbersome to some souls. I summoned a being who gave me a name. Last night, sleeping with a candle brought a terrible nightmare with past memories and their shadow. I am grateful for it. Wow. I'm glad that you were able to like experience that darkness and then like kind of work through it or integrate it a little bit. That's awesome. I've been trying to do shadow work every now and again. I did some intense like just sitting with the self and some shadow work. This would have been like, this was maybe a month ago. Maybe it's been a little bit longer than a month now, but I broke down crying. I cried for like 20 minutes straight, and that's weird for me. Like I don't typically have emotional releases that are that long of a period of time, but it was intense. And then I turn on my Elden Ring game, and then guess where I'm at in the game? Of all the places in the map, and I mean, there are a lot of places on the map. There's the DLC map right there. That's called the Shadowland, I believe. So it's the darker version of the map. And I think it really actually occupies this middle space right here on a different, it's like on an astral level or a different plane of existence. But I think that world right there exists in here within there. And then that's the normal map. But of all of these different places, after doing that shadow work, I literally find a place. I come to this place in the game, and it's called the Abyss. What are the chances of that? Now, that was some synchronicity right there. Tara said, I bet there's a YouTube video to figure out how. Yep, there's a YouTube video for everything. I looked up a YouTube video on how to plug in my printer, or not plug in my printer, put the ink in my printer. And I guess, which I was able to figure out, but I guess printers now, they're all wireless. So it didn't even come with a plug, like a USB plug to plug into my computer. It wants it to all be like Wi-Fi or wireless, which is a cool idea, other than the fact that I couldn't get my computer to connect with the printer yesterday. So I'm gonna have to try that again. And if that doesn't work, then I'm gonna have to get one of those cables and just not go the wireless route. Darius says, if it's time to see the magic work or your power to work, or just work real fast. I guess you'd have to elaborate on that a little bit more. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. It's not always, like when you do a ritual or you do any kind of energetic working, it's never gonna be like an immediate manifestation. You're gonna have to let that thought go or let it go and return to source, not think about it all the time. Frater Xavier talks about this all the time on his YouTube channel, Mind and Magic. And then it's got to return. It's got to come back and then manifest in the physical plane. So you could do a ritual, and it could take a week or two for it to happen, depending on how powerful the practitioner is and depending on what kind of operation it is that's taking place. Now, something that I did learn once is that even the most powerful mage can make more change just by twisting a ring or something, or doing a simple action or movement, than a whole group of like lesser practitioners could have altogether. That's kind of interesting, I think. So it's always, the power is always going to go to the most powerful, like a magician typically. They're going to be able to basically to affect a lot more change with less effort, because they understand the energetic principles that are going behind everything a lot more. Wonderful. Araenie. Araenie? Okay. Araenie, if I'm saying that right. It is the spider genius. Or genus? As in like the way the what is it called? With the like the scientific names of a species. The genus is one of the. I know there's like a whole category. It starts like animal kingdom, and then you have the genus is one of them. I'm not sure. I think that's what you mean. But that's awesome. Yeah, lots of spider symbolism lately. Always seeing spider stuff. Thank you. You're welcome, brother. You're welcome. Tara says, I like spiders. Yep, you sure do. Yeah, Tara had the spider tattoo, and it was like very Lilith in nature. Like it's pulling, I don't know if it's letting someone down or if it's pulling someone up in her web, but it's a woman, and the woman is very Lilith looking. And then the spider symbolism, it just had a whole bunch of Qliphothic or Qliphothic, however you want to pronounce it. People pronounce it differently, but it had a lot of that type of influence in the spider illustration or the tattoo. Araenie. Araenie says, I have not played it, but I see the connections. What is that word? YGG Drazel? Thanks, I was confused on that one. Okay, yeah. Yep, there's usually a time delay when you perform like an operation or a function. So that spider, it looks like it's on my face. That's funny. I'm still trying to learn how to Araenie. It sounds like a rainy day, but Araenie. Latinized naming indeed. Yeah, all the scientific names are Latin. That's why I always thought Latin would be like a pretty practical language to learn, honestly. I used to be really heavily enveloped in the aquarium, the tropical aquarium hobby, fish, keeping aquarium fish. And I still love having fish, but I don't have any right now. But I used to breed different species of fish, and I would sell them back to the fish store. And that was one of my main hobbies growing up, one of my big passions. I used to want to actually have an aquarium business, and breeding fish was one of my old dreams that I never really got around to. It's a lot of work. That has to be your whole life. If you're gonna run a business, and if you're gonna sell aquarium fish and make a lot of money from it, like that has to be what you do. Like everything has to be based around that. Like really, and that's how it is in any venture in life. And I guess I've always been so eclectic, and I've always had so many different fields of interest. Like aquarium fish was one of my things. I'm a musician. I'm a drummer. I'm an acoustic guitar player, and I'm a vocalist. I'm all three of those things, and I'm a hand drummer too. So I've played in different bands and groups, for about 12 years or so, lots of different groups. And I'm into, obviously, occultism and ceremonial magic and things of this nature. So I have a lot of different hobbies, and it's hard to just pick one thing and make that your life's, And I was always afraid that if I did something for a living, am I just going to end up hating it in the end? Is it just going to feel like a job again? You know what I mean? So I've always just had a normal life, not a normal life at all. I've had a normal job, which has supported me or helped me pay the bills while I do all of my different adventures in life. When I was in bands, I also had that normal day job. But I just wasn't able to make enough money from music it wasn't worth quitting my job. I made more money at my job than I did doing music, and doing music was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and it pushed my physical body beyond a lot of its boundaries. I think that's why I deal with some of the medical things that I do. There were 2 or 3 years there, I was just pushing myself way too hard and way too much, trying to just do way too much stuff. And I'm like just now, healing from that. Even now. Snake, I keep feeling them. You have a connection with snakes? Interesting. Yeah, the serpent energy is one of the most important, really archetypal energies to understand the whole reptilian type energy in general. Snakes, even Jesus said, "Be ye as wise as serpents." I am very reptilian in my energy. Like I'm not a literal shapeshifter, reptilian, but I have a lot of that draconian influence in my DNA. I think I have a lot of reptilian, draconian. I've always been into reptiles and dragons and especially snakes, and I've always just always been into knowledge and learning things. So I definitely like resonate with a lot of those more reptilian type features. Even the coldness, even some of the like cold, calculated nature of the draconian energy, I can definitely resonate with that. More so than the happy-go-lucky type energy. Not really. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm pretty dark in nature. Now my sidereal chart, I did my astrological sidereal chart, and I'm pretty much all Libra in that astrological system. I have like one Scorpio planet, and then the rest are almost all Libra. So I see myself, I guess, as both Scorpio and Libra. I have a lot of those influences. I could see, a little bit of Libra too, because I balance energies in a lot of the ways. My name's Tyler, so I tie a lot of influences together. I bring different groups of people together so that they can see common ground. That's always been one of my dharmic duties in this life, is to bring people who have different viewpoints and to help them see commonality and thematic similarities in their lives. So I've been going in this live stream for about 107 minutes. Well, it's about to be 108 minutes now, so almost 2 hours. We're almost getting to the 2-hour mark. Once I hit the 2-hour mark, I'm probably going to go ahead and end the live stream, just because I've been nonstop since I got home from work. I haven't even really I just haven't stopped. Since I got home this morning. I worked 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it's like 4 o'clock now. So it's been a nice full day. I do get a lot of relaxation and enjoyment from doing these live streams, though. These are fun for me, especially when you guys interact and comment. So if there's anything that any of you want to bring up in these last like 10 minutes, 12 minutes of this video, please make sure that you do that. Make sure we're getting the thumbs up going on in the chat as well. Even a spider, when I get up, I was terrified. Yeah, I don't like big spiders. Big spiders creep me out. The little ones, not a problem. I see a spider like this big or bigger, I'm gonna scream like a little girl probably if it ends up touching me. Norse tree of the universe? I'll have to look into the Norse tree. So Norse mythology is actually like the tradition or the mythology that I'm least, I don't know shit about Norse stuff, not gonna lie. I know the Odin myth a little bit. I just know that he's another one of those like mythos figures. Was he born of a virgin too? Did he have like a virgin birth like Jesus did and all the other? It's a little chilly in here. I'm gonna put my hood up. I just had a brother Mason though. He actually just got a tattoo of some Norse runes and a wolf, and it's actually pretty cool looking. But I have no idea what any of it means because I don't know the Norse stuff. But like I said, Odin's connected to the ancient mysteries, and he's like one of those archetypes that you see throughout different mystery schools. It is pronounced Yggdrasil. Okay, that's what you're talking about, the Norse tree of the universe. I'm gonna write that down too in my notes over here. check it out. YGG. So cool. I'll have to look into that. But was that a sign of power or a reason from the universe? Well, there's some synchronicity there. There's some reason that you're having the serpent and the spider type energies going on. It's a correspondence. It is a synchronicity of some kind. So yeah, it is a sign of power. Most definitely, it's a sign from the universe. Even have glowing wings doing a full moon meditation. Wow, that's pretty neat. What is that sign meant when I have glowing angel wings? I mean, it just depends. What does it mean to you, first of all, is going to be the main thing. Second of all, you could be perceiving, you could be catching glimpses of your own personal, your holy guardian angel as well, if you're doing like any ritualistic practices, which would evoke that experience. So you might just be seeing yourself in a higher form. I've done that before too. I'm not somebody who's had knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel, but I've caught glimpses of my holy guardian angel, and it does appear as like an external being, but it really is you, and you are it. And it's beautiful. It was like the most beautiful being I'd ever laid eyes upon. And I'm like, but I didn't realize till way later, I was like, oh, that's me. It was how I viewed myself as I was doing the Kabbalistic cross and rising above the planes of existence and connecting with that source, that Ayin, all the way up the tree and beyond Kether in the Empyrean heavens. Yeah, I can tell you have the serpent energy too, brother. Most definitely. You're a little bit more, you resonate even more with the darker polarity than I do, I think. I do quite a bit, but I also have a lot of positive influence too. I'm not really sure. I know the soul polarizes in one direction or the other for everyone because we're physical beings. So you're either going to polarize a little bit more towards the positive, or a little bit more towards the negative, or a lot more towards the negative, or a lot more towards the positive. It's all a spectrum, you see. So for me, I think I'm definitely like I'm moved. My soul is polarized more towards the positive direction, but I have a lot of influences and a lot of appreciation and a lot of love for the dark energies. I love a lot of the darker type stuff, and especially when it comes to like my sexual nature and things of that nature, I like embracing, those aspects of myself. So to a lot of people, that would be considered darker, the darker aspects of self. So in those ways, yes, with the Scorpio type energy, I think you're Scorpio too, aren't you, brother? The Scorpio energy is like a very sexual type energy. So we have to work extra hard to like channel that energy properly. And I think, wasn't it you that you was talking about NoFap once and stuff? NoFap's been like it's a common theme that people are talking about. There's some older guy that has his whole channel is like, that's all he fucking talks about is like NoFap and not masturbating and stuff. I'm like, how does he have so many damn subscribers and so many people watching him talk about like NoFap and stuff? I'm like, it's ridiculous. Like, I appreciate what the guy is saying. I get it. Like, I think it's a good channel. I think he has good things to say, but I'm just like, he has a huge following. Like, he'll post a video and it's got like 2,000 views in like 12 hours or a day. I'm like, what the fuck? But I have mixed feelings about NoFap. I think there are really good effects and side effects to it, for sure. Because what happens is when you conserve the sexual energy, it allows the energy to raise up into the higher spheres of being. So like you're going to have a lot more mental capacity. You're not going to feel drained all the time. A lot of these sorts of things, you're going to be a lot more in control of your own power. But at the same time, there are dangers in not ejaculating or having that experience. And I think when people need to have that release, they need to have that release. It's healthy. Even doctors say that it's healthy to do that. Sometimes it can actually make you feel more energized if you do release. It just depends. It depends on the person. Everybody's different. I think it's up to everyone to know when's the right time, when is not the right time to do that. But I see the benefits of no fap, but then I also see the benefits of indulging and enjoying what we have, what we're capable of as as physical beings, spiritual beings that are in a physical body. I guess I should put it that way. So yeah, we should always be able to enjoy the fruits of physical existence while knowing and understanding that we are spiritual beings at the core essence of it. If you have your third eye open, you'll start seeing the astral spiders. Then things are creepy. Yeah, I bet. Melanin, what's up? How are you? Good to have you in here, brother. Have you been getting crazy enlightened dreams? Not really. Not gonna lie. My dreams have not been vivid or powerful. Not much lately. I don't know if it's just because life's been like so stressful or what it is. There's also some things I could really be making a couple more changes in my daily routines and things that I may be indulging in that is not helping me have the most vivid dreams too. So, and that's another thing too with NoFap is if you are practicing retention, it should help with your dreaming and stuff too to some degree. Melanin, have you been getting crazy enlightened dreams lately? Yeah, it's weird for me. It's like I have to, when I'm sitting there and I'm laying down and I'm trying to sleep, I can sit there and have like a meditative experience. I could have like quote unquote a vision, if you want to call it that. Like it's not like an actual astral experience or anything. I've never actually done like real astral travel before, other than just when I'm doing like my, when I'm doing my Kabbalistic cross and my LBRP, I'm usually working, you're working astrally when you're doing those types of exercises. But as far as like actual astral projection, I've never been able to consciously do that. Never have. I've always had trouble. I've always, it's weird because if I'm to go to sleep, I have to almost like kind of make myself like unconscious to such a degree that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to shut out all thoughts and I'm going to just like be here and be almost sedated to the point where I'm just going to like bury my head in the pillows and blank out my mind. And then I'm not able to have like a very vivid, like sometimes I just don't have dreams at all, or I'm having dreams, but I cannot recall them. And, I was hard on my body a lot when I was younger. I've done a lot of not so smart things to my physical vessel when I was younger. So that probably has a lot to do with why I don't maybe dream as vividly as I could. Also, I know like smoking cannabis and stuff can affect your ability to dream and stuff. I know a lot of people when they take a break from smoking, they'll have much more vivid dreams. Also, look up the song Graham if you like speedcore. I do like metal. That sounds like a metal genre, so I'll check that out. And actually, you know what, Melanin, I did have a couple of vivid dreams, and I'm not going to go into what they were about. They were really quick dreams, like they didn't last very long, and then I was always brought back to conscious awareness, like I woke up. I was like, oh, I would get to this point in my dream, and then I would wake up. Make sure we're getting the thumbs up in here, guys, too, if you haven't already done that yet. And I'm not, like I said, it's very personal. I'm not going to get into what it was that I like suddenly woke up to. But because I've been going through a lot of, like I said, guys, this year's been the hardest year of my entire life. So there's been a lot of trauma I've been working through this year. Iadarius says, thanks. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Araignée. I'm still working on that pronunciation. I don't tend to feel pulled to angels. I see the darkness and it's like a comfy bed. That's awesome though. That's awesome though, because for me, I've worked with angels. Like 95% of my workings have been with angels. And I would say only 5% have been with like energies like Lilith or Lucifer. Lucifer and Lilith are the only two actual like energies or entities that I've like even attempted to work with. And even with them, I've only dipped my toes in the water just a little bit. And damn, is it powerful even just from doing that. Lilith's energy is extremely powerful. Lucifer's is very, very powerful. Both of them really are very, that's the thing with the darker energies is they're very dense. And I already feel like reality is so heavy anyway. So a lot of the times the angels will just, they'll help me like kind of deal with reality a little bit. It helps bring me to that place of peace where it's like a more etheric place. I've almost created like my own, through my exercises, like my own astral temple where I'm able to see the angels like in their four quarters. I'm kind of in a like celestial type place. I've talked about it in some of my videos before if you go way back on my channel. There's a checkerboard floor. Sometimes it's covered in just a small layer of water. And it's just a very beautiful place. And I'm not sure if it's just a temple that I've created through my own thought forms or if it's a place that I'm entering into. Almost kind of reminds me, the outside of it almost reminds me of if you've ever played Skyrim. What's that hall that you go into before you fight Alduin? It's what the Nords believe in, the afterlife. Gosh, what is that place called? Sovngarde. It's like the astral temple of Sovngarde. It has a protective field too because light forces see it as an endless valley of spikes. That's funny. Myself, I am Cancer. I find that surprising. My ex was a Cancer. I think Taurus moon with a lot of Mars. Yeah, I can see you having a lot of Mars type energy for sure. You have that warrior type energy within you, brother, man. For sure. You most definitely do. I have called NoFap a cult. I am very vocal in following my body, but will hold back at times to get more output in my workouts, etc. Yeah. I think there's a weird fascination with the NoFap thing, like for sure. And I had a buddy who he was trying to like not spill the seed at all for like a year or more, or like a couple years. And he said it opens up some chakra up here, like that. I don't know, man, but I don't have that kind of dedication. Like I don't see myself ever practicing semen retention for an entire year. Like that's a really long time to conserve that energy and not have the experience where you're releasing. And like doctors say, it's healthy for you. Like they find that people who release more often, like they're usually like healthier people. But yeah, you don't want to get caught up doing it all the time, because I think it's just like a food source. It's a food source for a lot of weird entities and stuff too. Some of the darker energies will actually like, they'll appreciate that. I think they can like feed off of it, as long as you're doing it in more of a sacramental or ceremonious way in like respect to them. Now the angels will just, it's funny because people think the angels are the nice guys, but the angels are the ones who will actually kind of like, they almost want to like steal, like they want you to expel your sexual energy because they want you to, angels are the positive energy. It's the outgoing energy. It's the releasing type energy, the projective type energy. So what does that make you want to do? A lot of the times I've noticed when I do like an LBRP or any kind of like if I'm working with angels and I'm doing energetic workings, I'll feel so good in the moment. I'm like, my body feels so good. And then there's just this feeling that there's almost like it just like this overwhelming feeling that you just want to, you feel so good, you just want to go and release the energy. So I think the demons are actually better in helping you to learn how to conserve the energies, the sexual energies, whereas the angels are actually going to like make you want to basically release those energies a little bit more. I know that's kind of a weird way of probably not everyone's going to agree with that, but yeah, I think the angels want to use your sexual energy to build upon reality, whereas demons want you to use your hold on to your sexual energies a little bit more to as your to add to your own personal power, so that when you are holding on to those energies and you're taking on the dense energies, you're able to hold on to all those dense energies. You're able to contain it. And then you're not so, you're not being so manipulated by the physical reality that it's pulling your sexual energies away from you, if that makes sense. So Lilith is really good. She's a good one about, and Lucifer, I would assume too. She's really good about helping you to conserve your sexual energies. And honestly, she's the one, Lilith's type of energy, her archetypal energy has taught me to have more appreciation and more respect for the feminine raw energy, if that makes sense. So I only realized the magnitude of Lilith. She is like the fullness, and Lucifer and Belial even stepped back in her presence. Wow. Yeah, she's a feisty one. And the thing that we want to remember too is that even though Lilith manifests as a female, and it's this ancient spirit, a lot of people call her the first woman. That's not the literal truth of what Lilith is. Lilith is an archetypal energy. But that story, that myth of Lilith best describes what the archetype of her energy represents, if that makes sense. So it's a social memory complex or a group of intelligences like a hive mind, which is projecting projecting its energies in such a way that it manifests as this female spirit, if that makes sense. A lot of people get that mixed up and think that like she hates men or something, or that she was the first woman. Like, no, that's just more of an archetypal understanding of what she is. So a lot of people take the myths as literal, you know. A Ouija board. Yeah, I don't mess around with Ouija boards just because I think there's too many trickster-like spirits that I don't think it's like super scary or anything. I think there's just a lot of like trickster spirits that are just going to try to give you messages that aren't really in alignment with what it is you're trying to figure out. Now, I think it could be potentially dangerous with people who have no idea of spirituality. They're just trying to mess or play around with the spirits or make it as like a joke or something. Those kinds of people might have problems manifest for them later on, most definitely. It can help, but only pulling the energy up. It transfers, and monk mode is no joke. Yep, pulling the energy up. And you can actually like, I guess some people call it edging or whatever. I don't know if that's the correct terminology or whatever, but it's like, it's where you technically, it's like you technically it's like your body feels like it's having a release, but it's actually not. Like you're not actually releasing the fluid, but it feels like your body is, and it almost has the after effects of like you did, but then you can actually keep going. And you can actually, there's energetic exercises where when you're having sex, like you can onk the energy like back around in your body and create like a toric field. And it actually will, if you can focus enough. See, the problem is a lot of people can't focus that much while they're having intimate connections like that. But if you learn how to work with your energies and be, very conscious of what's going on in the moment, you can loop the energy around like an Ankh cross almost. And basically, it's like a supercharger for you. It's like turns yourself into a super conduit. And I'm about to end this video really soon, guys, so make sure we get any final thumbs up. any final comments you have before I end the video, because I've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes now. So I am ready to finally relax for the day. I have been going since about 4 a.m. I got up at 4 a.m. this morning. So it's literally been, I've been up for over 12 hours now. But I love this, guys. I'm glad I decided to do this live stream after work today. This is totally worth it. So yeah, isn't it ironic how Lilith can help to retain? I think it's interesting too. Pulling the seed upward. Yep, up into the mind, up into the, if you can allow the energy to, because it's actually a scientific thing. If you conserve that energy, eventually it'll actually work its way up the system, and there's some kind of Christos, or you start secreting like some kind of, it has to do with the Christ or the oil or something. They talk about it in the Bible too, the dew, the magical dew. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but your body chemistry changes from holding on to the energy. I feel that. Ladarius says, Ocean goodness. I keep seeing them, and Marie Laveau, Cleopatra. Interesting. Melanin 98 says it's Z time to go to sleep. You know, it's not my bedtime yet. I'll probably be up. I'm probably going to try to stay up till at least 8. So that way I'm not taking a nap. I'm just actually like sleeping all the way through the night. And, but yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. So if there's any last comments, thank you all very, very much for tuning in. It means a lot that you guys take the time out of your day to come in here and comment and get involved in the chat and see what kind of shenanigans I'm up to, listening to me spiel and go on about random stuff. So always, yeah, wonderful chatting with you, brother. It's always a pleasure, my friend. So I love you all. I'm going to jump off of here, and peace and blessings. And until next time, take care.